From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Anthony Atanisov with 1680 The Crow, and here are your news and sports updates. Port Coquitlam has come to mass support in the wake of the Hazel Trambath Elementary School fire. Our reporter Nicholas Poitras has details on some of the unique ways that members of the communities are helping out.
In the wake of the school fire, many Port Coquitlam community members have sprung into support with some distinctive methods of helping out. Motley Crew Adventures, a dog walking service in the Poco area, is donating $5 for every hour of dog walking for the next month. The service is open for new dog owners to join them on their walks in support of Trambath. GoFundMes, support foundations, and small community fundraisers have all popped up in support of teachers and students who lost teaching material and getting new kids back into the classroom. Nicholas Poitras, 1680 The Crow.
More in British Columbia, with short-term rentals in BC affecting many long-term housing survivals in the market, housing problems do not seem to end anytime soon. Reporter Chris Koo has more on this update.
Short-term rentals in cities such as Vancouver, Victoria, and Kelowna have come under investigation for a few reasons, with the argument that they take away housing from long-term stable rental residents. It contributes to the province's housing crisis and increases the overall rent prices, according to BC Premier David Abbey. BC Premier and Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon are announcing new legislation this Monday to help municipalities regulate short-term rentals. CBC News will live stream the news conference. Chris Koo, 1680 The Crow.
And we're here joined with Chris. Chris, tell me, who does this exactly apply to?
Yeah, hi Anthony. So it applies to rental services where people reserve and pay. For example, Airbnb, Expedia, Flipkey, and so forth. And the new rule doesn't apply to reserved lands, hotels, and motels.
That's very interesting, Chris. And can you tell me what's the purpose of the Short-Term Rental Accommodations Act?
Yeah, sure. So the many local governments have actually taken action to regulate short-term rentals, but enforcement of bylaws is a challenge, and they have asked the province for moral tools and resources. So the new legislation focuses on three key areas, such as increasing fines and strengthening tools for local governments, returning more short-term rentals to long-term homes, and establishing provincial rules and enforcement.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
That was Chris Koo out there reporting on the legislation. We'll see how this legislation goes in the near future. And moving on to Ontario, the Insurance Bureau of Canada says this summer's severe storms and flash floods in Ontario caused more than $340 million in insured losses.
And that's just the initial estimate. Almost a quarter of the losses involved repairing or replacing storm-damaged vehicles. IBC says the Ottawa region was hit hardest. It designated 5 storms over the summer as catastrophes. That means they're estimated to have caused more than $30 million in insured damages. Don Kelly, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
Aviation Executive says Canada should be a key innovator in sustainable aviation fuel. However, it hasn't manufactured any commercial products. Airbus Canada CEO Benoit Schultz says Canada's history of renewable energy, agriculture, and aircraft manufacturing should put it in the pilot's seat on developing green jet fuel, which is derived ultimately from using cooking oils or organic wastes.
A country like Canada, with the natural resources that it has, with the competences in the industry that it has, with also the many players of the industry in Canada. So it would be really bizarre, in my view, if we couldn't make sense out of that, out of the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Roadmap for Canada.
Production rates for sustainable aviation amount to roughly 1% of demand for jet fuel, which costs about 1/4 as much as the greener alternative. Moving on to the Israeli conflict, hospitals in Gaza are on the verge of running out of water, power, and medicine, nearing collapse. The United Nations says thousands of patients' lives are at risk. The Canadian-based medical aid group Doctors Without Borders says it has run out of painkillers, leaving wounded people screaming in pain. ABC's James Longman says this comes as Israel's defense forces prepare for a ground offensive.
The IDF says special forces have conducted small raids inside Gaza, but regular infantry, artillery, tanks, armored divisions and battalions are all massing around the Israel-Gaza border ahead of the ground assault.
The 10-day-old war between Hamas and Israel has killed more than 4,000 people and forced more than 1 million out of their homes in Gaza. Moving on to the United States, the U.S. federal judge overseeing the 2020 election subversion case against Donald Trump in Washington has imposed a narrow gag order on him.
The 2-hour hearing featured fierce arguments from Trump lawyer John Lauro, who said a gag order would prove impossible to enforce in the heat of the campaign. But Judge Tanya Chutkin said even as a political candidate, as a criminal defendant, Trump doesn't have carte blanche to implicitly encourage violence. Chutkin made a point of noting the former president has called her a fraud and a hack, and the special prosecutor a thug. Her order prohibits Trump from making statements that target Jack Smith, his staff, or Judge Chutkin's staff. He'll also be restrained from speaking about potential witnesses in the case or their expected testimony here. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News at U.S. District Court in Washington.
Moving on to some local news, the city of Coquitlam has announced Snow Angel volunteer programs for the 23-24 winter. Snow Angel programs is about helping people in need with clearing out the snow from roadways and clearing the sidewalks of properties. Our reporter, Ugiloy Suvanova, will find out who can be suitable for volunteering jobs in this program.
The Snow Angels can be anyone who wishes to volunteer to help make Coquitlam sidewalks safer for those in need. With the record snowfall last year, Snow Angels program volunteers can be helpful for this year's snow. The qualifications for volunteering for this program is Coquitlam residents age of 16 and older with a good physical shape and capable of cleaning snow. Snow Angels can be helpful for seniors 65 years of age and older, people with disability and unable to clear the snow, not including sidewalks and driveways. The program is set from October 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. I'm Ugiloy Suvanova for 1680 The Crow.
And more in local news, according to data from Vancouver Coastal Health, 6.6% of seniors in the area experience social isolation. The Crow's Ben Bugera has more on what is being done to tackle this problem.
Data from Vancouver Coastal Health estimates 259,000 individuals in Metro Vancouver report social isolation as a contributing cause for their feelings of stress. Retired United Church minister and member of the Brockhouse Carousdale Seniors Choir, Reverend Sharon Copeman, says loneliness is more prevalent in urban areas.
I just think there's a cautiousness that we feel in large cities that doesn't happen in more rural areas.
Reverend Copeman adds groups such as her choir provide people with a place to share the joy of music while also experiencing a sense of belonging. Ben Bugera, 1680 The Crow.
Now into the world of sports, Canada's men's rugby coach Kingsley Jones is getting a 2-year contract extension that will see him lead the team throughout 2025. While the Canadian men failed to qualify for the World Cup currently underway in France, Rugby Canada says Jones has widened the depth of the Canadian talent pool and improved collaboration between the Canadian 7s and 15s program. Jones' record as coach is 15-31-0. Moving on to the world of hockey, Leafs center Matthews, Canucks center Pettersson headlines NHL's 3 stars. New York-Toronto center Austin Matthews has been named the NHL's first star of its opening week of the 23-24 season after he posted hat tricks in Maple Leafs' first 2 games. In Vancouver, Elias Pettersson took the second star honors after posting a goal and 5 assists in just 2 games, while Pittsburgh center star Evgeny Malkin was named third with 2 goals and 4 assists in just 3 games. Pettersson opened the season with a goal and 3 assists in Vancouver's 8-1 destruction of Edmonton Oilers on Wednesday, following 2 assists in the Canucks' 4-3 wins on Saturday's rematch against the Oilers. Matthews is just the second player in NHL's history to reach back-to-back hat tricks in the first games of the season. On to baseball, the general manager of the Miami Marlins, Kim Ng, has parted ways with the organization after 3 seasons.
Kim Ng is leaving the Miami Marlins after 3 seasons as general manager. Hired in 2020, she became Major League Baseball's highest-ranking woman in baseball operations and the first woman GM in the 4 major North American professional sports leagues. Sources telling ESPN that the Marlins offered Ng a contract extension beyond the 2024 mutual option Eng declined Monday, telling The Athletic that she and Marlins principal owner Bruce Sherman were, quote, not completely aligned in their vision for the Marlins front office. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Now on to the Olympics. Cricket's return to the Olympic program for the 2028 Los Angeles Games drew an enthusiastic response from fans around the world. It was one of the 5 sports that was newly added to the LA Games by the International Olympic Committees. Flag football, baseball, softball, lacrosse, and squash were some of the other sports that were included. Former India captain Sachin Tendulkar says beloved sport is back onto the Olympic stage. Cricket was played last in the Olympics around the 1900s, but the game is played at other multi-sport events like the Commonwealth Games and the Asia Games. Now finally into soccer, Manchester United. Sale of the team has been up for grabs, and it's been nearly a year since this team was up, and currently owned by the Glazers. There was news over the weekend that banker Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani was withdrawing from the bidding process, appearing to leave the door open for British billionaire Jim Ratcliffe. But the owner of the petrochemicals giant is reportedly only set to buy a minority stake, looking at around 25%. That would leave the Glazers as a majority shareholder of the club after years of campaigning from fans to drive them out. Now, we're moving on to weather, and I wish I had some better news for you. Commuters out there are still seeing high showers, 14 degrees, and we're looking for showers leading up until 6 in the evening. And they're looking to be subsiding later into the night. Hope to see that. And this was Anthony Atanisov, 1680 The Crow. Those are your news headlines and your sports headlines. Stay tuned next for our next update at 12:30 with reporter Brooke Jensen.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
It's an emotional night, but a night that's been seeded in hundreds of years of tradition. Welcome to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Nicholas Poitras, and on today's featured podcast, we take you 1,400 kilometers north to Kitimat and Klemtu, British Columbia, to listen and learn about the traditional feast of the Haisla Nation. Join alongside me is a member and newly dubbed hereditary chief, Kobe Smith. For starters, many congratulations on your new position. How are you doing today, Kobe?
I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for asking.
That's great to hear. As I mentioned, you recently became a hereditary chief of the Haisla Nation. You mentioned to me that you took part in a feast, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Nick. I took part in a feast in front of more than 400 community members at the Haisla Nation.
But what are these traditional feasts? To discuss this topic, we talked to Roxanne Robinson, a hereditary chief of the Klemtu Nation, to educate us on what these feasts are.
A potlatch for us is, and a feast, many nations have their own ways of doing it, but for us, we host a feast or potlatch to commemorate special times in our life, whether it's a headstone feast or a tombstone feast where we're celebrating the life of a loved one that's passed on, introducing a baby to the community, or weddings. So we have a long history of hosting potlatches and feasts in our ceremonial big houses from way back in time, where we have different ceremonies for certain life events.
So, Kobe, you flew all the way up for this feast. How much preparation is put into it?
Well, on Friday before the feast, all the clan members from the Killer Whale Fish clan come and help out and cut up all the veggies and the meat for the soup. And after that's done, we start setting up the gym for the community members to come sit and enjoy a meal with us and witness the names being put on our people.
Sounds like something that's been done for many generations. But how long? Greg Smith of the Haisla Nation talks to us about the origins of the feast.
It was born from our hereditary system. As I mentioned, the hereditary system used to govern our entire community, our entire nation. And prior to contact, this was the only system in place. They oversaw all aspects of the community. They were basically the law.
Hundreds of years later, the values of the hereditary system are still with us in the community, including the hereditary names of our ancestors.
What is your hereditary chief name, Kobe, and why is it so important to you and your family?
My hereditary chief name is Haitma Jalas. It's very important to me and my family because I'm keeping the name alive.
Although you earlier mentioned that you don't know the meaning of the name, many names have been given based off of the animals in the area. Roxanne discusses the importance of those names and why they must be passed down.
A traditional name can be anything from a childhood name to, like, when I worked at our community school, I felt it was very important to uplift our children, and we placed different names on them, like Guyam is a humpback whale. So there's childhood names that are common names. They aren't of any rank. But then chieftainship names are something that you have to feast for, or potlatch for, feed the people, gift the people gifts for coming to witness the work that you're done. So there's different types of names. And so I feel that it's important to pass down traditional names is something that's been done for many, many years. Like, I received my father's chieftainship name that was passed on to him from his aunt. And so there's a long lineage of where this name came from. And it's important that, when you receive a chieftainship name, it's not just a name to say that you're a chief. There's a lot of work that comes along with it. You are the voice of the land. You are the voice of the water. You are the voice of the people. And so there's a lot of responsibility for that. You take care of your clan. You take care of the people. You see, people. Being a chief isn't like being a king. Being a chief is looking out for the needs of your people and giving as much as you can and taking care of as much as you can. So I feel that it's really important that these names continue on for our future generations so that we can all stay culturally connected and that we are asserting our rights and title in our own territories.
The importance of these events cannot be understated. Through many years of the Haisla language fading, the feasts and traditional names have grown more powerful in the community. Greg talks about his experience with the language, and Roberta Grant, an Haisla elder, discusses why she finds these feasts very important.
When I was, I can't remember, around in my 30s, that's about when I started going to, when I received my childhood name back then, and I started going to feasts. I was a witness of some names that were passed on, but one thing that was really evident in these feasts was the strength of the language and culture. Most of the speakers in past feasts spoke Haisla without interpretation. So, and as you can see this past Saturday, it was rare to hear somebody speak in Haisla. It was mostly all English.
I believe it's very, very important to keep it within our community and keep it within our family, keep us together. It's important, like our language. We keep it within our community and elsewhere.
For you, Kobe, what was the most memorable part of that night?
The most memorable part of that night is when two very special people in my life, my two aunties, Terry Smith and Audrey Grant, placed my traditional blanket on me, and when my Baba Tubby put the headdress on me after I received my hereditary chief name.
What is the traditional blanket?
The traditional blanket is what hereditary chiefs wear at ceremonies and have their crest on the back. For men, the background is black and the border is red. For the woman, the background is red and the border is black. Red and black is our traditional colors. My crest is a salmon. There are a total of 4 salmons on my blanket that represent my Baba Reg that held the name before my dad, Ron Smith. And the second one represents my dad. He held the name before me. The third one represents my mom, and the last one represents me.
I absolutely love that. To have your mother, father, and your grandfather forever remembered on the blanket must make you feel very proud. And again, many congratulations. For people outside of the Haisla Nation, and including non-Indigenous people, these gatherings could seem quite different from the normal way of life. However, Roxanne and Roberta share their thoughts on why the feast is valuable to anyone who wants to attend.
When I hear ceremonies myself, I feel like it feels a bit intimidating, but any way that you can be in doing life, if you're having a tough day, I feel like the water is a healer, and I go to the water and I say my prayers. That's a form of ceremony.
I honestly don't know that question, but I'm thankful every day that this is still going on, like our language, and we have to continue to keep it going. And anybody else that asks for information, because this is a big, big thing to have a traditional feast. It starts from collecting dry goods to finance to the food to setting up and everything like that. In some of the feasts are drying the tears, and that one is just towels. But if you're going to have a big, big feast like you did, Kobe, it's everything. And that's our appreciation to go towards the community that came forward when we lost our loved one.
And like what all our speakers said, this is a tradition that with time holds more and more value and importance to keep the culture alive.
Our traditional ways almost got stolen away from us. That's why for me, I'm so proud of all the nations that get to practice our traditional ways and be able to talk our language and sing our traditional songs.
And that is all for today's feature podcast. I'm Nicholas Poitras alongside Kobe Smith. Follow us on social media at BCIT News on Twitter, myself at NickP_, and Kobe at KobeSmith33. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, I'm Brooke Jensen, and here are your 12:30 news headlines. According to data from Vancouver Coastal Health, 6.6% of seniors in the area experience social isolation. Our reporter, Ben Bugara, finds out what is being done to tackle the problem.
59,000 individuals in Metro Vancouver report social isolation as a contributing cause for their feelings of stress. Retired United Church minister and member of the Brockhouse Carousdale Seniors Choir, Reverend Sharon Copeman, says loneliness is more prevalent in urban areas.
I just think there's a cautiousness that we feel in large cities that doesn't happen in more rural areas.
Reverend Copeman adds groups such as her choir provide people with a place to share the joy of music while also experiencing a sense of belonging. Ben Bugara, 1680 The Crow.
The BC government proposed a new legislation that will rein in the rapidly expanding short-term rental market to favor long-term homes, as well as give the government more resources to ensure that rules are followed. Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon says that BC is facing a housing and affordability crisis and that we need more housing to meet the current and growing needs of our province. In order to do this, rental sites such as Airbnb will have to share their data and remove any listings that don't have a business license. The province says the fines for hosts that break any of these bylaws will increase from $1,000 to $3,000 per infraction per day. And on the topic of housing, Ontario's Housing Minister, Paul Calandra, also announced new legislation today to return areas of land to the Greenbelt, a protected area of farms, forests, and wetlands. This comes after a huge outcry after Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, took 15 lots of land out of Greenbelt to build housing, a movement he now reversed. Calandra says the government wants to move forward on its initiatives following the outcry. The family of Michael Donaghy, a little boy who disappeared from Victoria 30 years ago, is warning the public about a person online claiming to be Michael, requesting for money. The family says the person is not the missing boy and is working closely with the police to find out who this person is and make sure that they get the help they need. Melanie Joly, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, says the first group of 21 Canadians have been able to safely flee the West Bank by bus into Jordan. Justin Trudeau is expected to give an update to the House of Commons today after the question period. The U.S. is starting to ready troops and military personnel on a possible deployment to the Middle East in preparation of a predicted ground invasion. The UN says the conflict has become a possible humanitarian crisis.
The Pentagon's placed about 2,000 U.S. troops on a heightened state of readiness for a possible deployment to the Middle East. They aren't combat troops, but American military personnel who could provide support, including medical support if needed. Israeli troops are massing on the border with Gaza ahead of what the Jewish state says will be a ground assault. The UN, meanwhile, warning of a humanitarian crisis with nearly half of Gaza's population displaced. More from ABC's Ian Pannell.
Israel's already reduced many parts of Gaza to rubble since last week's attack. More than 2,700 Palestinians killed in just over a week and nearly 10,000 wounded. With a ground invasion looming, Israel calling for residents of northern Gaza, up to 1 million people, to flee south. Hospitals are overwhelmed as the UN warns that the fuel that keeps those critical facilities open will soon run out.
With continuing coverage, Israel-Hamas war. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
The city of Coquitlam has announced a Snow Angel volunteer program for 2023 and 2024. The program will help people in need by clearing out the snow. Our reporter Ugiloy Suvanova will find out who can be suitable for volunteering the job for this program.
The Snow Angels can be anyone who wishes to volunteer to help make Coquitlam sidewalks safer for those in need. With the record snowfall last year, Snow Angels program volunteers can be helped.
That was your news headlines for 12:30. I'm Brooke Jensen, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Microlink, connecting you with your BCIT community.
Hello everybody, my name is Tatiana Yakovleva and welcome to the first episode of Microlink for the fall term. I'm excited to be back. This episode has a lot in store for us, But first, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which BCIT's main campuses are located is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the shared traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. To start us off, I sat down with Celine Loriot, the president of the Student Association, to talk about the new executive board, what their visions are, and what's next for us. Celine, why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Celine. I am the president of the BCIT SA and a nursing student at BCIT.
That's awesome. And with so many BCIT students, it's never just being a student. Everyone does so much, right?
Of course. I feel like there's a bit of something for everyone at BCIT.
Right. So let's start with a few students. Can you tell us something about the 2023-2024 executive team? What's the vibe? What's the energy? What are you guys bringing to the table?
So I feel so fortunate to be working with such an enthusiastic team. So please don't mind if I rave about some of them. Charlene, the chair of health sciences, is a fellow classmate and nursing student like me. She's an avid runner and hiker. Also, she is pursuing her neonatal specialty. Shelby, the VP Equity and Sustainability, is an accounting student and has an appreciation for Shrek. Feel like a lot of us do.
That's my girl.
And her cat named Kevin. Simran, the chair of business and media, is an international student who has a bachelor's in French from India. Also, she keeps students safe as a security guard at BCIT. Abdul is studying architecture and building technology. He likes sports and cars, but only the fast ones. Justin is the chair of computing and academic studies. He is in the computer systems technology program and the voice of Raisin Crane in the Strawberry Shortcake series and volunteers at RAPS Cat Sanctuary in Richmond once a week. Daniel, the chair of specialized transport, is studying aircraft maintenance engineering. He is also serving Canada in the armed forces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very dedicated. Lastly, Jimmy, the VP External, is an electrical engineer student and a Lego connoisseur. I could go on about Mia, Rishank, Josh, and Matthew. And if I did, we'd probably be here for a couple hours.
That's fair. We did hear from Mia and Vershank and a lot of the returning execs already. If you haven't checked out the previous interviews, I strongly recommend to doing so. Well, Celine, enough about your team. I want to hear about you. What do you bring to the executive team as the president?
As I mentioned, I am a nursing student in my final year, so I've really honed how to stay calm under pressure and how to think critically. Before this role, I served as the BCIT SA Chair of Health Sciences, and based on that, I know how it feels to be new at the SA. Therefore, I really try my best to set up my executives for success by regularly checking in, acting as a soundboard for new ideas, and encouraging self-care in work-life balance. I firmly believe that the president should share power and leadership is best when it's collaborative. My priority is that students should feel seen, heard, and valued. It's not about being president that motivates me, it is serving the SA mandate of enhancing student life.
Can you briefly touch on what enhancing student life means to you?
So, enhancing student life is really listening to the students and delivering on what their current needs are. One of these mission projects that I'm working on is supporting students' mental health and awareness at BCIT. I plan on continuing with my Campus Convos events, which are mental health workshops with guest speakers shared over a meal at small round tables. This was actually a shared initiative with Josh Liu, the VP Student Experience that we started last year. So I'm definitely excited to continue with this initiative. Also, I want to boost student resilience and foster that sense of community by hosting more social events. I want to make BCIT more fun.
I personally root for paint night, so maybe you can make it happen one day.
For sure.
Okay, we got one vote in. Hopefully it'll get through. As a nursing student, what is the value of mental health? I'm sure you know that more than I do. So can you please briefly touch on that and the magnitude that it carries?
So I started my nursing studies in the peak of COVID.
Right.
And that was the strangest time of my life, right? Because instead of practicing in the community, we were practicing with simulation mannequins, right? So I think for me, mental health is so important because the pandemic made us more disconnected, right? And I think being a nursing student puts me in a unique position to really be in tune with what's going on around me in my environment and have a sense of what's going on for people and how I can really use my compassion to help others. Yeah, I think that's why mental health awareness, especially for students at BCIT, is so important to me.
Is that the main reason you got into nursing?
Yes, because I have had the privilege of growing up with lots of inspirational nurses. And I think just seeing the impact they had on their communities and, sure, no one is ever going to remember their names all the time, but people remember how they made them feel. And I think that is really what inspired me to get into nursing, because I want to have that kind of impact on someone. Make them know that I didn't give up, that, no matter what, I'm there for them.
I love the quote that it's more about how nurses make people feel, because in medical or mental health aspects, it's so vulnerable.
Yes.
And having a right attitude just makes the difference so much. But we'll stray away from that topic and we'll come back to the initiatives. Are there any other initiatives that your colleagues have been fostering that you're very excited about?
So I'm excited to work with Shelby Woida, the VP of Equity and Sustainability, to find ways to indigenize the organization. And we are thinking of doing this through consulting with elders on best practices so we can move more in the direction of promoting reconciliation that is meaningful to us. We hope to achieve this through education and events in collaboration with community partners at BCIT. Mia Boo, the VP of Finance and Administration, plans on continuing her free tax clinic for students. It was very popular and successful last year. I think this is an excellent initiative, as tax time can be stressful for students, and it allows student volunteers to practice their tax skills. Vershank Prabhu, the chair of Energy, is leading the SETREP committee, which is focused on improving the SETREP program for everyone. And actually, many executives are interested in finding ways to just make it that better experience. And lastly, Justin Saint, the chair of Computing and Academic Studies, plans to continue hosting the annual QDS Hackathon, where teams work together to create solutions to an industry problem. And the winners get prizes and chances to connect with the judges who are potential employers.
Ooh,
lots of fun stuff happening.
So you mentioned the tax clinic, correct? And I personally can vouch that I volunteered for it last year. Honestly, an amazing experience for those who go there and volunteer there as well. But speaking of taxes and the economy, as you know, that the current economy is not very favorable with the interest rates rising, and it has affected everyone. Currently, there was a referendum last year regarding finances. So how does BCIT Student Association operate in a deficit? And how do you choose your priorities when it comes to limited funds? Because everything has a limited fund. We cannot.
Of course.
Unfortunately, we would love to have unlimited funds, but that's not realistic. So how do you set your priorities in this situation?
It's true that we are in a deficit, and we have chosen not to cut back services to students. Hosting successful events requires thoughtful planning and buy-in from the team. Also, we have options to move funds around to support initiatives. For example, September is jam-packed with student-facing events that we started planning many months in advance. The execs will be present at the events, so please stop by and hang out with us. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a sneak peek of one of those events?
Oh, one of them, we plan on having a pub party where we'll have a DJ and we'll have meal specials. And yeah, I'm really excited just thinking about it.
And besides the social events and gatherings, what do you think that the students at BCIT need the most in this current time?
It isn't easy being a student. Affordability is huge, and we know students need to feel supported during their academic journey, and there are numerous negative impacts from the rising cost of parking, housing, food, education, and textbooks. The list goes on. I see it every day with my classmates, many of whom have to work longer hours or take additional jobs just to make ends meet.
Right.
Additionally, mental health challenges continue to be prevalent, and no student should have to face this alone without adequate support. The SA is here to help, and will keep pushing BCIT and the government to step up even more.
And what does stepping up mean for you in this case?
So stepping up means really addressing these needs and being there for students. We opened a food pantry and we secured student support as a BCIT SA community for increased investments in this program over the coming year. Most importantly, we are constantly advocating to BCIT and the government around parking affordability, student aid, better regulation of international tuition, and increased mental health support.
And as far as I understand, that's the responsibility of VP External to lobby for those things.
Correct.
I know that's not your role, but can you briefly give us a sentence or two to summarize what your colleague does?
So Jimmy, the VP External, he goes on lobby trips with the government relations strategist Stuart. And in those trips, they are purposeful trips where they advocate for students in meetings with government officials.
I'm sure it's very tiring to do so, but I appreciate Jimmy doing that on our behalf. We'll get to the nitty-gritty part. I've heard some rumors that some students feel there is a disconnect between the student association and the students themselves. Do you think that is the case?
We can always do better. And this is top of mind during my presidency. Students connect with us for appointments with advocacy specialists for support with wellness and navigating BCIT educational policies. Also, students enjoy connecting with career specialists as they help give them that extra boost that they need in their careers and connect them with employers at career fairs. We form a council with student representatives across all schools and campuses. Therefore, I strive to find ways to motivate students to join, especially where students can directly have their say and shape the direction of the SA. BCIT attends student consultations with us throughout the year, so this is a great way to let them know what challenges and suggestions you have.
And for want students to get involved and to really voice their opinions, how can they do that? I believe, as far as I know, anyone can sit on the council meetings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Everyone is welcome. We have food. And yeah, it's one of the best ways to stay in the know in what's happening in the student community.
SA itself, there was a 5-year plan called Raising the Bar. What does that mean to you specifically, Celine?
Raising the bar means putting in the work to match words to action. For instance, we want to engage with more students by having more student-facing events throughout the year. Doing so will increase our presence at BCIT and student engagement at times such as the AGM and elections. Our new strategic plan will require everyone to work together in January to determine how we move forward into the future to enhance student life.
And what do you hope will be accomplished by 2024 with this plan?
I hope that students will be able to see our presence and feel that we are here to support them.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the BCIT students listening today?
At the BCIT SA, you choose how you want to be involved. You can join one of our 40-plus clubs, attend Kickstart and Welcome Back events, sign up as a set rep or counselor, or go to our website to learn about all the great services we offer. Please reach out to us if you have questions or concerns and send us your ideas. We are an inclusive and welcoming organization, pet-friendly too.
That is true. I've seen so many cute doggies running around. But I personally lobby for more cats. I'm a cat person. We need more cats.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you can't tell them where to go, so that's probably the only hiccup. But to end things off on a maybe slightly lighter note, do you have any advice for upcoming students? A lot of people are starting in September. What do you think a new student at BCIT should know?
At BCIT, there are so many people that would like to help you and so many resources here. And no one is ever going to turn you away if you say you're not okay. And yeah, we are a supportive community and we really want to see our students thrive.
I think it takes effort to reach out, which is why there might be a sort of barrier when it comes to it. But I can say from personal experience, it is worth it. If there is anything, an issue going on, and even if it's not really related to student life, you can always find resources. I personally encourage every listener to really reach out to people. We're only an email away, really, so.
Yeah.
And you can book appointments with Celine and other executives as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So each executive holds their office hours, and one way to find out when we're available is to go on our website and click the link to book an appointment with us. Or even if you just see us in the hallway, talk to us. We're happy to chat.
So now you know how Celine sounds like. So if you hear her voice, you know who she is. That's what it's like, hi, Celine. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that the September will be off to a great start. It sounds like a lot of is cooking up, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I want to make BCIT fun again.
To continue discussing changes at the Student Association, I sat down with Roland Gagel, the Director of Finance and Interim Executive Director for the SA. He and I discussed what his two current roles entail, how they play into one another, what their differences are, and what they do to make the student life better. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Roland. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Roland Gagel, and I am the Director of Finance and the Interim Executive Director for the Student Association of BCIT.
So, Director of Finance is your main role, correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell me more about your main role?
I've been with the Student Association since 2003, so 20 years now, and my role as the Director of Finance is to oversee the finance and accounting and administration of the Student Association.
And in terms of being Interim Executive Director, how does that look like for you?
I get a lot more emails on a daily basis now. So in terms of the role of the executive director, it's overseeing the operations of all of the staff and acting as a liaison, as a liaison to the board and council. So assisting and supporting them and translating their objectives down to the staff and trying to achieve the goals that they want to have.
And in that position, do you integrate with all of the levels of the Student Association, or is it more of a relay between the board and the employees of the Student Association?
There's obviously a team of people. I don't talk to everybody individually. In totality, the Student Association has about 100 staff, so I don't talk to everyone, and many of the staff are involved with serving the students at our retail stores and things.
Right.
But so I mean, I don't manage all the staff directly. There's a team of directors that I directly liaison with or chat with and inform them or inform them of the board's wishes and just manage the operations from that point.
And how long have you been in this interim role?
Since June.
Okay. And combining this and your main role of Director of Finance, what does your day in your life look like?
It's answering a lot more emails than I used to be doing, and trying to fit in the Director of Finance duties, some of which I've downloaded a little bit to the controller of the Student Association. Everyone's pitching in as best they can to help me out. It's an awful lot, and I certainly don't mind doing it for the benefit of the Student Association. So I certainly can't do it by myself. All of the staff are helping me out as best they can.
And I did hear Little Bird say that you do bike to work.
Do bike to work most days.
Most days. That's a nice start to your routine. Is there anything else that you like in your daily routine to break up the busyness?
Well, I try to make sure I have lunch.
That's always good.
That's always good. Other than that, no, it's bike to work to sort of get some fresh air and get going, and then it's doing the work and trying to answer emails, try to reach out to staff, talk to staff directly. I try not to sit at my desk too much. I do like to chat with people because I find it's a more informative way to bring the team together and sort of move things forward. So yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like the students to know about you and the Student Association?
I've been with the Student Association for 20 years, as I said. I've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the Student Association since I started. It is a completely different organization since when I started in 2003, but the mission has always stayed the same. All of the staff are dedicated to tagline. It's not just a tagline, it's the mission of the Student Association, which is enhancing student life. I'm always striving to make the Student Association better, but always better in the sense of trying to make things better for students, because the students are the members of the Student Association.
And how does that betterment look like in the next 5 years for you?
Well, there's a number of projects on the table in the short term in improving the food pantry, food security program. We've recently hired a food security coordinator as per the referendum that was passed last spring by the students. So enhancing that program, part of the objectives of that program is to bring it to the other campuses where possible. How that is actually going to look is still to be determined, but we're working on that because we fully understand the need of food security exists at all campuses. We're still working on with BCIT to determine where additional space for the Student Association could be on campus. That is part of the mandate of the Student Association. And so that's still in the works. It's taking a little longer than we anticipated just because of the complexity of the negotiations with BCIT and the need to find the space and then to pay for it. We are collecting a new building fee to facilitate the building of a new space or acquiring a new space, however that may be, and there's just a lot. It's a complex thing, so we're still working on that. And then just in general, just trying to strive that all of our services are a little bit better every year, and make the delivery of services to students more efficient, more effective, and of more value to students.
And you talked about the consequences of the referendum. Is there any other ripple effect that students may not notice in their daily life?
With respect to the food security program, we brought that forward. It was brought forward by council to the students, and they voted in a positive manner to increase the fee as it relates specifically to the food security program, and now we're just rolling that out. the ripple effect there is just to be of benefit to students because the students found that to be of value. I can't really think of any other ripple effects. It's just all in the package or mandate to enhance student life.
And I talked to Celine about involving more student events. Is that something you're currently working on, or is it something that you don't oversee as much?
I am certainly working on it, not directly, but the council and the board has communicated that wish to me to have more actual student life on campus in terms of events, and I've communicated that to the other staff, and we are working on that. So, for instance, we did have the party at the pub on September 22nd, which was quite successful, and we've heard from students that they enjoyed that very much, and that seemed to go well. And we're in the process of planning another party for Halloween, and probably another kind of a party at the end of November. And we intend to continue planning more events, both bigger events and smaller events, to provide more life on campus.
What was some of the feedback that you received from the students during the Habitat Pub party?
Generally positive. They all seemed to have a good time. There was some pickup on the Uber rides that we provided to students for the night of the party. We intend to do that again. With respect to the Halloween party, it was generally well received, and everything went reasonably smoothly. There weren't really any major hiccups as far as I'm aware. So it was generally positive. We're just trying for the Halloween party to expand it a little bit and make it an even bigger event. I'm not going to share any details because that's going to come out in the next week or two, the details as it relates to that. But we're just trying to make the next party bigger and better, more fun.
Will you dress up?
Will I dress up? I hadn't thought about that yet.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope those 2 interviews were very insightful for you folks, because they were for me, and I work for the Student Association. Oh, but speaking of, you can check out more Student Association content, events, and things that are happening in the area on the Instagram at BCITSA. Same with Link. Our Instagram is at LinkBCIT. Also, check out our TikTok, run by yours truly. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you in the next one.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.